tonight, I want to talk to you about how to achieve mastery in dating. Okay? So, you guys see me right here, right now. You've seen the way I approach women. You've seen the way that I have zero resistance in any situation. And I could just effortlessly walk up and have these conversations and basically get whatever girl I want for the most part. You guys see who I am now. But what you don't see is who I was. Like, some of you guys have seen me at different points in my life. Like, I know you have a little while back, but like, you guys haven't really seen like where I started from, like who I was, and more importantly, like what it fucking took to get here, what I had to go through. And first off, I want to say I'm like so grateful and proud of all of you guys, and I'm amazed with how vulnerable you guys were able to get. Like, I know that we kind of know each other, right? Like, we spent months on the calls together, working with the models, and there was some level of vulnerability to that, like signing up for that and putting yourself under tension, exposing yourself. Like, that already takes courage, most courage that most guys don't have. But coming here in person, making this trip out here, getting in front of the models, now you guys are more bonded, but when we first started, you guys didn't really know each other, and just getting that raw, like that takes balls to do. Okay, so I want to commend you guys for that. But today I want to get vulnerable myself. Okay? And I really want to tell you guys the truth about what it took to get here. More importantly, though, I want to, like, looking back on this journey, I see that there are a couple, like, points, stages that I went through, 6 in specific, to go from being a kid who was deeply traumatized, no sense of self, super low self-esteem, like completely felt worthless, had no results with women, to being where I'm at now. And I'm not saying that where I'm at now is like I've like made it, or that I'm anywhere close to even where I think my full potential could be, but I've came a pretty far way. And I'm really proud of myself for that. And I want to show you guys like specifically the stages I went through and how you guys can reverse engineer that for yourself. Figure out like maybe where you're at in that journey, but also, okay, what's that next step you got to take to level up? So it's going to be very, very valuable to understand that. The thing I want you guys to understand, because the title of this talk is going to be about mastery in dating, but take this away, is that mastery in dating is really just mastery of yourself. That's all that it is. Like, if there's one thing for you guys to take away, as you up level and you grow as a man, women mirror that back to you. They mirror that back to you in them being open to having a conversation with you when you approach them, them being open in going on a date with you, them wanting to have sex with you, them chasing you, them wanting to marry you and have relationships with you, being committed to you and loyal to you. These things happen as a byproduct of all of your development. So a lot of guys, the way I used to think about it is like, well, how do I like achieve this goal of getting this perfect girl and keeping her? Now I think about it very differently. I think about it from, how do I become the type of guy that can A, attract that girl, but to actually keep her in my life without fucking it up and self-sabotaging it. Because I've had both, right? I've had quality girls and I fucked it up too. We'll talk about that. But that's the first kind of concept I want you guys to think about, is that it's this journey of self-mastery. And women are just a mirror along that journey. So view every rejection that you guys experience, every no, every girl being like, oh, I'm not interested, I kind of just see you as a friend. All of that is a gift. Because they're just a light, they're a reflection of that mirror shining back at you what you still need to work on. Okay? And that should be a muse. They're a muse, essentially, like from Greek mythology, that inspires you to keep climbing and to keep progressing in this journey. It's a call to action. Every no is a call to action for you guys to grow and to level up. Okay? So let's rewind back. Let's talk about who I was and kind of like my upbringing and, you know, my early days. So I was always a very difficult child. Like I take responsibility for that. I had ADD growing up. I had behavior disorders. Like I couldn't sit still. I couldn't listen. Like I was just a very, very hard child. I was not an easy child. It was problematic since day one. But my family, my parents, they're from Russia. They were Russian immigrants, you know, kind of like what you were saying, like you immigrated here, they were the same way. They didn't have a psychology degree. They weren't therapists. They didn't do this work here. They didn't get in touch with their inner child. Like they didn't do any of that. So they were pretty fucking traumatized, both of them. Like they went through a lot of trauma immigrating here. Mike, you mind grabbing that? So, you know, the combination of me already being difficult and then their parenting style being emotionally abusive, physically abusive, like the way that they would teach me lessons was hitting me with a belt, screaming at me, putting me down, calling me a piece of shit. Like that didn't really help, right? You take that cocktail of a problem child with abuse, it's not good. It's not good, right? It doesn't really lead to high self-esteem. Right? Their intentions were good. Like they wanted the best for me. They wanted to raise me, but the style of parenting was like really, really bad. Really bad. But they didn't know any better, and I forgave them for that, and I don't hold them accountable to it. But it's like I'm still aware of why things played out the way they did. And then, you know, coming into middle school and high school and going through that whole process, like, again, a combination of me being like this difficult kid with all this trauma, and also massively like having this desire to fit in, to be cool, to be accepted, to be liked, to be part of the popular group, never being a part of that popular group. It stirred up so much pain inside of me. The bullying that I went through, you know, not making the sports teams that I wanted to make, maybe you guys relate to some of that stuff. Like there was a lot of deep shit that was like storming up inside of me, even by the time I was 17, 18 years old. Like a part of me always knew that I had like so much potential, but like the world was just treating me like shit. At home I was treated like shit. At school I was treated like shit. I was getting bad grades. I was flunking a bunch of classes because I was just trying to prove something to my parents, rebelling, smoking weed, throwing parties at their house, like just doing things to like rebel. Because I just wanted, at the end of the day, I wanted love, but and acceptance. But it was that's kind of what it was. But just like such low self-esteem, so disconnected from myself, and in so much pain. The first moment of grace, like real grace, came in my life when I was 18, when I graduated high school. It's funny, I played lacrosse in high school. I don't know if any of you guys played lacrosse. It was like the one sport I was pretty good at. And I lied on the resume to apply for a camp as a lacrosse counselor. I lied to them that I was on the varsity team, but I actually wasn't. I didn't even make the varsity team. I was on junior varsity. But I was really good at like, you know, kind of like selling the whole thing, and they ended up giving me the position. So I went to this camp that was in a different state. I like convinced them that I was actually good at lacrosse, where I really wasn't. I was like below average, but I knew how to like toss the ball. And that was my first moment of grace, because that allowed me to put myself in a new environment that was away from my parents for the first time spending time outside of the house for 3 months, different set of kids, different set of girls. Nobody knew me. If you guys remember high school, there was like a reputation. There was like a stigma, like that's Bradley. Bradley's that kind of kid, or Brian's that kind of kid. And it's like no matter how hard you try to push through that, it's like you're like boxed in. You guys know what I'm talking about in high school. Especially if you're in a small school. That's how it is. So that was me, right? Like I was like the weird kid. I was the loser. I was the kid that nobody wanted to be friends with. So I went away to this camp, clean slate. And I remember like going up, it was in New York, I'm from New Jersey, going on this bus up the hill to the camp and like thinking to myself, this is my first like personal development moment where I was like, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to come into this new environment and I'm not going to be the kid that people called a faggot and a loser and annoying in high school. I'm going to be somebody else. And I was like, cool, let's do that. And what was interesting is that being in high school and like trying so hard to fit in with all these cool kids, I was really good at like studying their behaviors and emulating the way that they acted, right? The way that they talked, the words they used, the slang they used, the way that they carried themselves. So I basically created this whole character and I just like mimicked what I saw in high school at this camp. What do you guys think happened?
It lasted for a while, but it eventually crumbled.
Okay.
It worked.
It worked. Anybody else? Yeah, it fucking worked. It worked. That shit worked. And it's interesting how reputation works. That experience taught me a lot about things like status, things like reputation, things like social proof, and what people say about you and how that matters. So because I was able to win the trust of a couple of the key players at that camp, some of the kids that were there for a while, that were well known, that were well liked, that were connected with all the prettiest girls, I like became friends with them essentially because I spoke their lingo and I was in. And what was interesting is that being accepted into that community, I've never felt a high like that in my life. It felt so good to be accepted and to be liked and to be validated. It felt so fucking good. And I remember the high that I was on every day, just riding this high. But at the same time, deep down, the high was like, it felt like it was like a plane that was not built correctly. Like I wouldn't make it to the destination, but it was still flying. But it felt good. Deep down, though, I knew that it was all a fraud. And I remember riding that high and that dopamine and off those chemicals, just actually being able to attract one of the hottest girls at the camp. Like one of the girls that most of the guys there that were cool couldn't even get, I just was able to attract. Her name was Danielle. And the problem was that I came into it with complete lack of authenticity, right? Fake as fuck, massive front up, acting like I'm somebody who I'm not, just being a character. And it worked. Like she liked like the bad boy type of character. She loved it. But one of the first things that I told her, this was a couple weeks in after we started to hook up, and back then like I was a virgin, a complete virgin, no experience, like kissed a girl once at a dance. And we're like spending time one night and she's like, are you a virgin? I'm like, fuck no. Like, what do you mean I'm a virgin? I got a ton of experience. Like, I know what I'm doing. And that lie, I'll tell you guys in a second how it bit me in the ass later. But that was the first massive lie that I told her. I mean, everything I was doing was inauthentic, but that was the first like inner face lie I said, because she was actually vulnerable with me. Like she literally said, like, I actually really like you and I see us like having sex together and taking each other's virginities and having a special moment. Like she literally told me that. She's like, I want to do this with you at the end of the summer. And I was like, well, cool. Like I've got this. Like I have all this experience. Anyways, the summer goes by. We get to the end of the summer. She's scared. Like think about it from a girl's perspective. Like beautiful girl, has saved herself, hasn't had sex with anybody, and like really likes me. She spent the whole summer with this guy and like wants to have sex for the first time. Like if you guys think sex is a big deal for you, imagine how big of a deal it is for like a 17-year-old girl. It's a huge deal. Her reputation's on the line, her self-esteem's on the line, what her family thinks of her, what her friends think of her, like it's a massive thing for her, right? So I remember that moment we're about to like have sex for the first time and we're on this trampoline and it's cold outside and I have zero experience, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm already mildly addicted to porn at that point. And I can't get it up. And it's like, I'm trying all these things. I'm trying to touch her here, touch her there, get her wet. And I'm like, I can't get it up. Like, no matter what I do, I just can't get it up. We try for like an hour, 2 hours, and I start to freak out. I start to panic. Is something wrong with me? Like, am I broken? I could tell how disappointed she is, how she thinks it's probably her fault. At that point, I still don't man up, and I don't tell her the truth that I'm a virgin, because I have so much shame and ego around that. Anyways, she gives me a second chance. Like, literally by grace, I get a second chance inside. And guys, by the way, having sex, I don't know if any of you guys have been to sleepaway camp, it's not easy. like you have to like sneak out, like get past the counselors, and there's like all these booby traps you got to get through. Like, it's a whole thing to do it because it's like, I'm gonna get tossed out of camp if they catch me. Like, this is on camp property. So we try again. We find this closet, this like big closet that we tried in. Anyways, what do you guys think happens?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yep.
Same fucking thing. Yeah. The truth always shines through. I get wildly needy. Please, like, maybe we could try again. Don't, like, give me another chance. I could just tell how hurt she is. I still don't tell her the truth. This was the summer that song, if you guys ever hear the song Lana Del Rey, Summertime Sadness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crying myself to sleep listening to that song. Like, that song is so bittersweet to me because on one hand, it's like the moment that like this whole journey started for me is that song. But on the other hand, like, I've never felt that much of a high and then that low of a low. We talk about it, right? The next couple days in person. She's like, yeah, no worries, we'll keep, because we planned to literally date. I was in love with this girl, and like she felt the same way about me. And we thought that, okay, after camp ends, like, we're gonna date. Like, I saw myself like being with this girl. Like, this is like my first real love. The moment camp ends, I don't even get home yet. I get a text from her, like a long paragraph. You guys already know what the paragraph says. It was amazing getting to know you. You're such a good guy. But I think it's best that we don't see each other. Yeah. That was fucking brutal. Like, brutal. And it's crazy because I did that to myself. Like, if I was vulnerable with her, like we talk about authenticity, like if I was actually authentic with her and told her the truth, it would have played out differently. A, she would have been not taken any of it personally, but B, I would have gotten out of my own head and probably would have been able to perform. So that is stage one, where I wanted to like give you guys like a framing around this whole process, but stage one is where I was when I saw that text message, which is desperation. That is the first stage that you're at. And if any of you guys like got cheated on or got rejected really badly, like for the first time with a girl that you really loved, or you just feel like you're at rock bottom, right? That is desperation. That is like stage one of this process, of this journey. Who here feels like they've been at desperation, at that point of desperation? Yeah? Like a true point of desperation. Now, when that happened, I had two things happen. One is I felt the most amount of pain I've ever felt in my life about this whole experience. But two, I had like a wild fucking fire that was lit under my ass that I want to go and I want to figure this thing out. That I want to be able to actually get girls like that. Because, guys, think about it. Going from the kid who got no girls to getting a girl that's your 10 and then her leaving you, think about what that does psychologically. One, it breaks you, but two, it gives you some hope because it shows you that you've got some potential. It gives you some hope. And it's those moments, I want you guys to think about this as well, moments of hope in your life. Because hope is such a key part on this journey. There is a lot of pain that you guys go through, right? There's moments of disappointment, frustration, rejection, but it's those moments of hope where a girl actually like really likes you. You have an amazing night together with someone. Like that is basically the universe showing like you'll get more of this if you just keep fucking going. And that's what that was for me. It was hope. So I got motivated. The problem was that I had no strategy. Obviously no coach, no strategy, didn't know what the fuck I was doing. All I knew was that girl, I know, mentioned multiple times, I like guys that are jacked. Oh, he's hot. And like these guys were like in good shape, blah, 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 right? So in my mind, I was like, okay, Jason's like, I was like, look, if I just go to the gym and then I like get super drunk, go to these college parties, I just approach girls, I'm good. That's it. I'll figure it out. Problem was that A, I got injured in the gym because I didn't know what I was doing. And then number two is that it didn't fucking work. I was going to these like disgusting, sloppy, under the ground frat parties, making out with these fives that I wasn't excited about. like 20 levels down from this girl. And that's all I could think about is like, I want this girl. Like I want girls like that. And that was the next stage, from desperation to motivation, right? That's stage 2 of this journey, is motivation. So I was wildly motivated, but I just didn't know what I was doing. And I just kept doing that and kept doing that and kept doing that and just kept like struggling, getting drunk, all these coping mechanisms and crutches. You guys probably relate to this, right? You're motivated, you're like full of energy, but like you don't know where you're going, okay? Until, again, I had another experience with a girl, because usually women, as I'm saying earlier, are muses that inspire us to level up. So the next girl was a family friend. I was at a family friend party. And this is a girl that like honestly wasn't as pretty as the other one, but I always kind of had a crush on her. If you guys ever had a family friend that you kind of had the eyes for, you know what I'm talking about? So it's this family friend, her name's Julia. She had big boobs. I liked her. And I tried to, my whole strategy, because I was fucking shit with sexual tension, didn't know how to connect with women, like didn't know any of this stuff, didn't know anything about honesty. My whole strategy, like this is literally my dating strategy, was when I'm at a house party or I'm at a family friend event, try to covertly, like secretively convince her to like go on a walk with me, on like a platonic walk, and then flip the switch, like bait and switch, and then go for the kiss, awkwardly go for the kiss. That was my whole strategy. It's like diffuse the tension, somehow get her on a walk with me away from everybody else, nobody sees me, and then go for the kiss. And that's what I did. And then she like didn't kiss me. And I've like wanted to kiss this girl for like years. I've had a crush on her. And I'm like, fuck. And then on top of that, she goes, you know, you're not really my type. And that's yeah. And I remember this is like a family friend 4th of July party that they throw every year in Cape Cod. And I remember with my parents, and my parents find out about this too, because like she tells her mom. And I'm being shamed the whole drive home back to New Jersey by my parents. and my parents the whole time are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're creepy as hell. Like, I'm literally being like shame programmed for taking a little bit of risk the whole time. And in my head, I'm like, all right, fuck this. Like, the first thing I'm going to do when I get home, I was in college, by the way. I'm going to go online, I'm going to type in, how do I talk to girls? That's the first thing I'm gonna do. Like how to build tension. Like that's like, I'm just gonna go on YouTube and just start doing this. So that's what I did, right? I went on Apple, what is it, like the podcasts, right? I started to like look up different dating advice tips, and guys, the stuff like out there is garbage, like complete garbage. Like the 7-step formula to making her wet, right? Like it's just like this coach said this and that guy said this and use this pickup line and then when she says this, do that. Like that's what I was doing, right? Like that's how I got into this whole world. And I just go down the rabbit hole. Like, I mean, some of the stuff was ridiculous, but it gave me, again, hope. Like, I had a little bit of hope, which is the next stage from motivation, which is action. The dating advice gave me a framework to start taking action. Even though the action was taken on a broken system, pickup, tactics, gimmicks, at least I was taking action. And guys, when I set a goal, like I fucking go for it. And that's what I did. I started going out to, this is right around the time where I was like 20 years old. So I started going out to bars, going out to cafeterias, like in my cafeteria, like people are eating, everybody, like it's the college cafeteria, like people know each other, like sorority sitting together, like hammering out approaches, group approaches, solo approaches, like with pickup too, like not authentic approaches, like indirect canned openers. Like again and again and again. I had like a notepad in my phone, maybe I'll find it and show you guys someday, where I literally had like script by script, like what to say on dates, during approaches. I was in the bathroom, like studying the shit, making sure like line by line I was saying things the right way. Think about the amount of rejection, guys, I went through during the stage. Yeah. And it's funny because like I didn't know that this wasn't, that like I thought that girls would like this. That was also part of the problem. Is that I didn't know, I lacked the awareness that girls could see how inauthentic I was being. I was like, ooh, cool. Like now I have like the next like map, right? I have like the key to all of this. Yeah, so like I took a wild amount of action. Massive fucking action, like massive action. Day game, night game, every fucking environment that I could think of, on the train, subways, grocery stores, at the gym, everywhere and anywhere that I could think of, just hammering out approaches. Rejection, rejection, rejection once in a while. Back then Instagram wasn't even a thing. This is pre-Instagram. Numbers, I would get numbers. Like then I would go find tactics for texting, and yeah, that's a whole nother fucking thing that I could go into. But anyways, eventually I thought I got pretty good, right? I thought I got to a point, and I did have some success. Like I'm not gonna lie, I did have some success. I got, at least eventually I got smooth enough with some of these things, with these tactics, where I was able to make girls laugh. I was able to get them excited. I was able to, push them away. And I got laid a whole bunch of times, right? I lost my virginity. This is like 21, 22, 23. There were people that I found that were really much better at teaching pickup, and I started to model them. It became less about what I say, but more about how I act, like acting like an alpha male. Like, what is that like? And I went really deep in that rabbit hole. But eventually, there was a third girl, again, who broke that and shook me to the next level. And that was also a girl that I knew since I was young that I really liked. Her name was Stacy. This is after I finished college and I moved to Connecticut to work a corporate job in tech sales. And I remember my mom telling me, like, as I'm moving to this place in Connecticut, it's like out of college, oh, Stacy's gonna be there. And I've always like really liked Stacy. When we went on ski trips with them, with their family, like I've always like really liked her. And I remember having a date with her, actually getting a date with this girl, Stacy, and then kissing her and thinking like, wow, like I fucking figured this out. I understand pickup. I know how to pull this girl. And this girl was actually like close to the original girl that broke my heart. What do you guys think happens after that date?
and it was nice.
Nothing happened. She lost interest.
She lost interest. Why do you guys think she lost interest?
She's even more in touch when you could tell that you were authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. She could tell that I was just performing. Like all of it was just a big act. Like all of it was just pure performance. And by the way, guys, performance can work. Like it could get you some results, but women can just see it. Especially high quality women that are like emotionally aware. It's like, to them it's kind of funny. Because you look like you're just trying too hard. And they could tell that something's off inside. So yeah, so she ended up ghosting me, essentially. Even though I'd known this girl for all my life. She kissed me, literally, in my opinion, she kissed me out of respect. Like out of the fact, like out of pity even. Like that's what I mean by respect. I respect this guy enough, like I've known him since I was young. I'm gonna like be nice and kiss him, but I'm not really gonna wanna date him because he's not himself. And that is when I read the book Models. And that was the next paradigm. That's when I had my revelation, kind of like you did, around honesty. That women want honesty. And that was the next stage. And that changed my life. But back then, my understanding of being honest and vulnerable with women was like, I understood it like analytically with my head that like, oh, if I say that I'm nervous, if I tell a girl that I'm attracted to her, it's better than faking and being somebody who I'm not. But it was still very like up here. It was not in here. And I still had a lot of fucking trauma and wounds in here that were like unhealed. So I was using honesty as a technique, essentially. And it worked even better than anything else I've tried, right? Faking authenticity is the best technique. Like if you guys want a technique, like you want the best pickup technique, just pretend to be authentic. But you know what works even better than pretending to be authentic? Actually fucking being authentic. Actually being real and raw. Like that is the best thing that you can do. Second best is faking it. And it will get you a little bit of the way until the girl catches up. So yeah, I remember the first time, like I talk about it in the course even, in the accelerator course, like the first time that I learned about it, like I went to a music festival, I told the girl, you make me so nervous, and like I exposed all this emotion to her, like we danced, we hooked up, and I was like, wow, like this is the new magic trick. Like it was the best thing in the world. And I used it and I kept using it, but eventually I hit a wall where it stopped working. It stopped working. And around that time, I also started Everlasting Confidence. Not to go on a sidetrack, but I had this deep experience. I was working in corporate, B2B sales, miserable, not my purpose, not what I'm here to do. I was into meditation at the time. And I had this experience where I'm meditating and I'm observing my emotions, and it felt like God or something literally shook me and said, like I felt this like deep light inside of me speak into me and say, you're meant to help men with confidence. Because I was, up until that time, I was searching for purpose. I was reading personal development books. At work, I was basically not doing my job and just listening to Tony Robbins. Like I was doing everything I can to escape that world of corporate and just fill my mind with personal development. And it hit me. I was ready for it. You're here to help men with confidence. And I acted on it. I quit my job and I started the business. At the time, it wasn't just really even about dating. It was just about confidence. I was broke. I had $1,000 in my bank account. I got thrown out of my roommate's apartment where I lived in Connecticut. All I had was like an old car and $1,300 in just like a purpose of like what I'm here to do. But I fucking followed that. I was 23 years old. I was a young kid. My parents were like, you're a complete idiot. We're not talking to you. We're disowning you. We put you through college. We spent all this money. You have all these student loans. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But I followed it. I knew in my gut that I needed to take that step. Like, that was one of the scariest things I did, is to take that step. But there was, yeah, it was really important. And it was that reading the book Models and then having that meditation experience, like the two of those things, like pushed me into this. So anyways, I start coaching and you know, it's good. I get a couple clients and I start to realize, like, for me to really be able to help people, like, I need to invest in coaching. Like, how am I supposed to help others if I myself have so much shit to work on? It is so out of alignment for me to ask others to work with me if I don't have anybody coaching me, if I'm just listening to books and podcasts. So,
how did you survive with $1,300 in your pocket?
Dude, literally the way the world works, the way universe works, is if you go for what you want, things just happen. I got a client within 3 weeks, for $500. Just to do like a sessions online, one-on-one phone calls. Yeah. Like I just scraped it by. I figured it out, Ken. I figured it out. Right? I didn't have investors. I didn't have a reputation. Like I literally just figured it out. The whole thing. All of it. Like I literally, from the start, I built this thing. Anyways, let's come back to the whole thing with the mentorship. So there's this guy that I followed on YouTube. His name is Brian. He had a very different approach to dating. Instead of teaching tactics, he taught embodiment. He talked about it differently than anybody else. He was like, it's not about what you say, it's about who you're being. At the time, I didn't even know what that meant. It was about, he was talking about getting in your body, connecting with your cock, with your legs. I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? I was like, what do you mean connecting with your cock? Like, I thought it's about like disqualifying and negging and like open loops. Like, I thought that that's what it was. But he's like, nah, it's like about like feeling the ground. And I was like, what does that mean? And he had all these meditations that he was doing. And he actually was the first one that like introduced me to model work. This guy's a lot older. So, take a sip of water here. I remember deciding to invest money and going to one of his workshops. Like, don't have a lot of money at the time. This is like 7 months after I started my coaching business. But I was like, okay, I need to invest in myself. So I did. I went to a workshop and I got in front of a model for the first time. And guys, at the time, like, I have a bit of an ego even then. Right? My ego is like, well, I'm this guy that does this coaching thing. I know how to be honest. I'm good with women. I've gotten laid a whole bunch of times. I know what I'm doing. Like, what is this model really going to tell me? Like, yeah, I could learn a couple things around getting into the body, but like, yeah, I'm sure I got this pretty much. I get in front of the model, and the model looks at me in the eyes and says, you're the most inauthentic person I've ever met in my life. Not only that, she goes, you're incredibly needy. And funny enough, I actually go there with a client. So I bring a client there. And all of this, and my client at the time is sitting there like this. And I'm coaching this, and like, this guy's paying me to like go approach with him like at bars in New York. Because I'm pretty good at approaching at this point. Yeah, it's like 2019, and like my face, like literally, guys, I was so full of shame. I run out of that workshop. I don't even finish that work. I can't even approach. Like, I just re-emerge into approach anxiety. After approaching like 5,000 women, I can't approach anymore. I just fully shut down, and I run out of the workshop, and like, yeah, it takes me a little while, but that experience pushes me to the next level, which is transformation. Okay? What that experience taught me is that at the end of the day, it's about the inner work. It's about who you are inside. And that I was using honesty as a tactic, and that I wasn't actually being authentic. Like, it was done with an attachment to getting a certain outcome. So I start doing the inner work. I start taking it seriously. I read Letting Go by David Hawkins. I start to understand my emotions, little by little. I keep approaching, but I do it from a different place. Instead of just about getting laid, it's about getting to a point where I'm comfortable in my own body. That becomes my goal. How do I like actually get into my body? That was my main goal, is I'm tired of being in my head. I want to be in my body. I want to feel safe in here. Because that work that I did with Brian made me realize how disconnected I was from myself and how fucking uncomfortable I felt around attractive girls. Before that, I just thought, well, maybe I'm not big enough. Maybe I'm not good looking enough or not tall enough. Maybe I just don't know what to say. Maybe it's that. But that experience made me realize, and like the more I dove in here, I was like, wow, okay. There is some deep stuff in here. That's the real problem. Like my stomach convulses around beautiful women. I have this massive like tension right here around beautiful women. I feel numb in my legs around beautiful women. Like, I started to become aware of these things. Before that, I just lived up here, all cerebral. Who here's had that moment of like, holy shit, there's all of this in my body around beautiful women, and that's the problem? Raise your hand if you feel like you're here. Okay. If you guys are here, it means you're at the stage. That's the cool thing, right? You know, I'm grateful that I was able to show you guys this, that it didn't need to take you like 6 years to figure this out. So I started doing the inner work. And what do you guys think happens? What do you guys think happens when I start to meditate every single day?
Bunch of shit comes up.
Yeah, 100%. Endless amount of negative emotions. But what happens in my dating life, do you guys think? Once I actually connect with myself and with my emotions. What do you think happens?
Something else comes up.
Well, what do you guys think happens? What happens in my reality? Okay, connect with women.
Get to that next level.
Dramatically improves.
Wild improvement in my dating life. From like these like numb robotic approaches, like hammering one after the next, just performing, to now actually having connections with women for the first time. I had this goal back at that time when I was in pickup. I was like, back then it was like rotations were like a thing. Like, I want to have a rotation. I want to have, Jason's laughing. Jason knows what I'm talking about. Those days, the rotation days. You know what I'm talking about.
Throughout.
So having like 3-4 girls like in your like little harem that you talk to. I was like, I want to have like my little rotation. Like, I want to feel like I'm a king. Not that I actually was, but like I want to feel that way. Like, I have this girl that I approached at the coffee shop. I have that girl that I met on the subway. I have that girl that I met on the street. And I'm like talking to each one of them once a week. And I feel like I have this like sense of abundance, even though inside I'm like still full of trauma and pain. So I get my little rotation. And again, it's that dopamine high. Like, ooh, it's like, feels so good. This is right before COVID. Like, I got this pep in my step. Like, I feel like I'm like, now I'm not an imposter anymore. Like, I could really like have more assertiveness with clients. I have this authority. I know what I'm doing. I've got all these like 7s and 8s that I'm like talking to and dating. And then COVID hits. Lose all the girls. Every one of them. I can't go, blah, blah, blah. Different things happening. Guys, what happens when a COVID hits? Maybe you guys remember that time.
Non-dating.
Online dating, but you're faced with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lockdown. Yep, that's what everybody experiences during COVID, is that these moments, they force you to face yourself. And what was in here, just a bunch of unprocessed stuff, right? Like, even though I was doing the inner work, I was doing it, I was still doing the inner work so that I could get girls. I was doing the inner work so that I could be more confident with women. I wasn't doing it for myself. And still I had the old identity. All the way from back in the day, from my childhood. The guy that's a loser, a victim, like not good enough. Like I still had all those deep, deep, deep subconscious programs running me. But I kept going, right? Like I kept pushing through. The problem though, guys, with what I was doing, my modalities that I was using back then were just emotional releasing and just feeling my body. But all that was coming up was negative emotions. Who's felt that, by the way, as they're doing the inner work? It's just endless negative emotions. Like when will I get out of this? Like endless negative emotions. Okay. This is where things get rough. So I fall into addiction, like a really bad addiction. I had a porn addiction when I was young. I fall into that even deeper. I start going to strip clubs. I start paying for escorts. I start going to massage parlors. I lose my soul. And this is tough for me to talk about, guys, because some of you guys know what addiction feels like. But I felt like I got to a point where I had everything figured out, right? Like I was making good money in the business at that point, like more than enough that I needed. I had lots of clients that were looking up to me. I even got a hot girlfriend at that time. After COVID ended, I moved to Florida, I moved to Miami. My addiction actually got worse in Miami because of all the distractions and everything that's going on here. This is a couple years ago. On paper, I have everything, like literally everything. I have the girl, I make good money. I have all these clients who I'm working with and I'm helping and I'm actually making a huge difference on their life. But like what we spoke about yesterday with the duplicity, remember? Secretly, I'm a different person inside. Who I'm presenting myself to the guys that I was working with at the time was not who I was inside. I didn't like myself deep down. Despite everything that I've went through, despite everything that I did, I still didn't like myself deep down. Anytime I would have this huge breakthrough, even in business, I feel like I don't deserve it, so I go and I self-sabotage myself. And I go and I abuse myself. Because that was what I grew up with. I grew up with abuse. I sabotaged my relationship, and I hit rock bottom.
What triggered you
Triggered what?
to start doing like escort service, this,
Yeah.
going to strip club?
Yeah. What triggered me was that even though I had all this outer success on paper, I was making the most I ever made. I was living in a nice apartment here. I had friends. I was invited on yachts. Like everything was good. I had a sales team. I had people working for me. Like everything was good. Inside, I had all this unworthiness that just was, I had an inner child inside of me that was screaming, "You don't deserve this. You're not worthy." And I needed to find an outlet to sabotage myself. I don't know if you guys relate to this or have ever been through an experience like this where you've achieved the level of success, and then because there is a misalignment inside with that success, you either A, find a way to screw it up, or you inflict pain in a different area onto yourself. Like you can't be at ease with your success. Yeah, you can't just enjoy the success. So, I'm not going to go too deep into the details because it gets really dark, like really, really, really dark. The headspace I was in, and it was bad. And I was really good at I've always been super good at hiding things and pretending and acting like I'm good, right? But I wasn't good. And funny enough, that broke me through to the next level, because it's usually your lows that push you to the next thing, to the next rung, which is the highest level. Because in the midst of darkness, there is always light. You guys have heard the cliche saying that what happens, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, which is integration, right? Integration. I had all these fucking things, I did all this work, but I was not integrated. I never integrated this part inside of me from my childhood that was wounded and traumatized and in pain. I never integrated that. So it was just causing havoc on my life, which was finding my second mentor, who's my mentor now, who introduced me to this new modality that was very different than anything I've ever done. And I've always known that the work I needed to do that I was avoiding was around my family, around my parents, around my childhood. Like, that's where the work was. Like, the work superficially at first was around approaching and sexual tension and all this stuff in the outer world. But the work that I was avoiding, like the deep stuff, was the family stuff. Like the stuff on my inner child. I had literally like an inner child inside of me screaming and crying that was destroying everything. So, you guys relate to this? Yeah. Feeling unsafe, feeling unloved, feeling insecure, feeling inadequate, all that's your inner child. So, it's called reparenting. Now, I don't know how it happened, but I knew about this guy. This is a guy that has done this work, this dating work, the spirituality work for close to 30 years. He doesn't really take on clients. He's underground. He's retired. I've heard of him. He's like in the dating community. He's like a legend. He's like a myth. He's like a mythical character. But I end up DMing him, finding like he's not even really on social media, but he has some like old photography account that I found because he used to shoot models. And I DM'd him and I was like, can you please help me? And a week later, we end up on a Zoom call and I like basically beg him. I'm like, dude, like I really need like, cause I've seen some of his videos and the level at which he talks about all this stuff was like, I just know that he gets it. Like out of everybody, I know that this modality of reparenting is what I need. So we start working together. And guys, changed my life. Changed my life. So to give you guys some context, like I've been working with this guy for a while, over a year, and twice a day I do meditations. To this day, I'm still working with him. Twice a day I'm doing meditations. I don't care if there's a mastermind, I don't care if what's going on. I'm traveling morning, night.